Hello and welcome to Beyond the Lights, Football Across Texas, where we're talking football in towns with head coaches across the state. I'm your host, Brandon Brown, retired football coach and AD, and I'm glad you could join us today at this week's stop in the Lone Star State as we meet one more coach and one more town that make up the world of Texas high school football.
Favorite run play, I like ISO.
Power. You got to run the power.
Run the picket fence.
So I was hung up at the crow's nest.
My grandfather was the first African-American running back to be All-State.
I was 19 right about the time and went to a church revival and got saved. And that path changed my life. It's about going in there and changing lives.
Mudita, which is finding joy or happiness in others' success.
Now, I got a funny story on this.
Oh, those guys grew up on beans and cornbread. And, I grew up on McDonald's and bologna sandwiches, a little better deal.
Yeah.
I'd like to play the flute, Dad.
It ain't all right either. You're editing, but go ahead.
So if I tell you too much more, I have to kill you?
All right. Hey, quick couple comments before we get started today. One, if y'all remember Coach Patman from episode 9, who was the head coach at Del Valley, he retired this past year. So now not only is he getting to go watch his kids play their college sports, Coleman over at Arizona playing football, and Emma up north at one of the schools up north playing volleyball. So not only is he watching them, but he has started selling vehicles at the Covert Auto Group at Hutto. So if you are needing a vehicle, I hate buying vehicles with a passion, but if you're needing one and you want someone you can trust, it's a good guy, and you know they're not going to rip you off, go see Coach Patman over there at the Covert Auto Group in Hutto. He doesn't know I'm putting that on there. I just saw that he was doing that, and I was like, crap, why didn't I know that when I had to buy a new vehicle, 6 weeks ago? So, which anyway, I did have to buy one because some 14-year-old girl thought she should be out there driving without a license. So I had to go buy a new vehicle. But anyway, that's another story. And also another thing for you O-line guys out there, there's a new website you need to go look up called hogmollies.com, HOGMOLLYS.com. And anyway, a buddy of mine out at Ozona, Coach Collinsworth, they've started a website trying to honor and recognize O-linemen. So each week you can send a name and some video or something out there to them, and they'll pick some winners for the week and they'll get some recognition. So if you get a chance, go look up hogmollies.com and check it out. They're just trying to get some O-line guys a little more recognition since the big boys don't get as much as they should get. So anyway, all right, now to the show. All right, hello and welcome to episode 50. This is a big deal for me. I finally hit the 50 mark, and what better place to be than my old rival high school growing up? That is Decatur, home of the Eagles. Now, I guess we could have gone to our hometown of Bridgeport right next door maybe for episode 50, but we are here at Decatur, our rivals. And now Decatur's a 4A school located about 40 miles northwest of Fort Worth. Most of y'all have heard of it and know where it is. Pretty strong program here in every sport. And anyway, my brother Heath is here co-hosting with me again today, and we are here with the head football coach and athletic director, Steve Huff. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm good, thank you.
Well, I appreciate you having me here during your off week. You are starting off another strong year here, but right in the middle of district right now with a big one coming up next week, right?
That's right. Springtown in a week and a half now.
Okay, all right. Well, good luck to you on that one. And anyway, we normally get the show started with you just kind of telling us a little about yourself and your background, where you've been, where you grew up, what got you into coaching, and what brought you to this point here in Decatur.
Well, that's at my age, which is 62 today, by the way.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah, appreciate it. That's a long journey, but I grew up in Missouri is where I grew up. I played ball. My uncle was a coach, and that's kind of my inspiration is getting into it. When I was a child, he actually, when he got back from the military, lived with us for a little while. So there was a time there where he was like, just part of the family with us. And so, but then he became a PE teacher and a coach. And so that's kind of where I got my inspiration. But, grew up in Missouri, played ball, University of Central Missouri, ended up taking a graduate assistant's job at University of North Dakota with some of my old coaches from college. And that's kind of how I got started. I thought I was going to get into college coaching. Played at Central, then I was in North Dakota for a year, and came back and got in high school ball for a year with my old high school coach as just a full-time substitute, basically. And that was how I thought, well, I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do here, whether go college ball or high school. And then I got back and took a GA job again at University of Kansas when Glenn Mason took over there. Left there, took another GA job at Western Michigan University. And then about that point, I thought, I really liked the high school side of things. I thought that was kind of where I was going to end up. I thought I could be more of a help to kids there. College ball was just different. Not that I didn't like it, but the recruiting and seeing kids come in and how they were talked to recruiting wise and what was going on, I thought I could help more on the other side. So that's how I got into high school ball. And since that time, I've coached with the GA job and stuff I've done. I've coached in 7 states. Moved around. I've got 43 more to go, but I'm running out of time. So I think I'm good with no more. But that's kind of how I got into it and got started. And I've enjoyed it. I told my dad some years back. We always talked about jobs, and I told him, I said, he said something about working and going to work daily, and he used to get up get up early and go to work, and I got up. As I got up and got older, got up early and go to work, and I told him, said, I never leave the house dreading going to work. He said, you're lucky. He said, you're a lucky man to be able to do that. And so I've considered myself in this profession being lucky my entire life, because I still, even at my age right now, still, I don't even see the end of it. And I enjoy coming to work every day, and I just really like being around the kids. So I think that's how it all kind of got started.
Okay. Yeah. What was it like in College Station? I'm kind of curious because my mom and her family grew up in College Station. So with the rich history of, Consol and everything else, and then you having to open the rival school kind of there in town, was there any awkwardness there for the schools as far as loyalty to one or the other went, or are there enough new families constantly coming in that it didn't feel weird?
Oh, there was plenty of awkwardness.
Was it?
I'd coached for Jim Slaughter at A&M Consolidated for 6 years before I went back to Oklahoma to Midwest City. So I developed a lot of relationships, strong relationships. I loved College Station, loved it there, loved the people there. So I developed a lot of relationships. And then when we opened the new school, which when I left there, that was being talked about and kind of thought it was going to happen. I didn't know that I would come back for sure. I thought maybe if, how things went in Oklahoma, I may come back. But coming back, it wasn't tough because we were a freshman and sophomore only to start with. So we weren't going to play. We weren't going to be aligned in the district football-wise. Everybody else aligned up. But we didn't align in a district football, so none of the rivalry stuff was really out at that time. There were certain schools that we weren't going to play. It was a given that we were not going to play any schools that we were in the district with in other sports. So that left out Navasota and all those schools at that time. So we were on pretty much a rogue schedule for those first 2 years, and it was tough. It was tough to find games, and because there's no contract in those games, you may play them one year, and next year they say, well, we don't want to play you. But then when we got aligned in the district, right off the bat, we're put in there, and we go from 3A to 5A quickly. So we're in there with Brian, A&M Consolidated, and so it got interesting quick because we were growing at that time and continuing to grow. Brand new school, I think a lot of the people in town, they called us the Purple Palace because it was big new school. But I always said you can't build old. It's just it is what it is. But it started off and it was heated from the get go. It was heated with Brian from the get go, and they don't play Brian anymore. Brian's up now 6A, but College Station, A&M Consolidated are back at it again, and I don't think that rivalry's lost anything. But again, great people. You have people that grew up A&M Consolidated high school grads, and so the Maroon was definitely the strong venue at that time. And then I think as we came on, I think the narrative had all changed. It got much more heated in every sport. But when I say heated, I'm not talking about ugly. I'm talking about, for me, it's good for sports the way that was. And so very, very enjoyable, very tense. That's you play that week. That's just that's a gut-wrenching week to play when those two teams play each other. But again, I think that's what makes it what it is. Makes high school sports what they are.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, as you're talking about all the different states that you've been in and everything else, having been all over the country, because I was looking at that one of the articles I looked up, had some of your history on it and the different schools you had been the GA at and this and that. And what I'd seen was Texas, Oklahoma, Washington, Missouri, Kansas, Michigan, and North Dakota. So coaching football in those different states, now not all of those were high school related, but do you see a big difference in high school football for Texas versus those other states, or is football in every state?
Well, I think the football part of it, it's like I've told a lot, and I've been asked that question a lot. I think football's football. There's a lot of good football in other states. What you know is what you know. I grew up in Missouri, and that's all I knew, and I thought it was, the pinnacle. And then I moved around a little bit, moved to Oklahoma. I'm like, okay, this is a different notch in school athletics. But the biggest difference I've seen in Texas, I think, just throughout, is just the genuine deep love for football year round. Some of the other states I've lived in, they love it during football season, and they roll into basketball, and then basketball is big. I'm not saying other sports aren't big in Texas. I'm not saying that at all. But football is talked about year-round in Texas, and, I absolutely love that part of it. And I love all sports, but that's one of the biggest things I noticed. And then obviously, when you look at it, when you move further south, you're going to start noticing the facilities are different. They just are. There's more money that's put into sports, and I don't care what sport it is, makes no difference. The one thing I am starting to see now, and because I have some dear friends in Oklahoma, I'm starting to see facilities in Oklahoma are now taking a huge step forward, and it makes me proud of what they've got going now. It's kind of like this thought process in Texas is also leaking out to other states, and I've not ventured much into like the Georgias and areas like that, and I know they have good facilities over there, but hands down, you look in Texas, the facilities, the field houses, the weight rooms, the indoor facilities, it's just they're second to none. So that's the biggest difference that I've seen.
Okay. Now, I had seen in an interview back when you took the head job at College Station that you said, and this was a quote from you, said, "We want to win, but we also want to develop character and core values in our students." So do you do anything specifically for that? Do you have like a character building program, or do you have like word of the week or any of that stuff that y'all do here?
I think one of the things we started at College Station, we just called it our core values. When I was hiring all the coaches for all the sports, I would send out emails to them as I'd hire them and say, give me some of the words that you think are most important to, athletics, but most important to the school building. And developing kids and getting things right. And we came up with character, commitment, sacrifice, and effort. That was our 4 words at College Station High School. And that's something we broke every practice with. And as it got along, most sports did break their practice with that. And then we would say the word, and then there was words behind each one of them. They would go each through value. So, did we have a character development program? No, I think our programs were the character development program, trying to put the right people in the right places in those head coaching jobs that would take care of kids and put kids first. And that's the one thing I always said. You can hire coaches that know a lot about, whatever it is. The X's and O's, they're great, and you want those guys. But I always tried to find good people first, and then we could fit them in the coaching part of it. And whether they taught me or we taught them or however it worked out, was getting that to where we had the right people that would treat kids right. Because my biggest thing with kids is I want them to want to come back to the field house the next day. I don't want them to dread coming here. And we talk about that, exhaustingly with our coaching staff. This is the place we want kids to be, because there's a lot of places kids can be right, and there's a lot of things they can do. Kind of not to wear that out. I think that's something we kind of do the same thing here. The big part of this started with me in Midwest City High School, Midwest City, Oklahoma. Tradition-rich program. I was very fortunate to get that job. I'd been the OC at A&M Consolidated, took that job back in Oklahoma. And they did a deal on Thursday nights, and they called it Brotherhood. And a lot of people do things on Thursday nights that were Brotherhood. They did some special stuff. It was held at the church. Our game field was across the street from First Baptist Church there in Midwest City. A man named Jimmy Tribble was the youth director there, youth pastor. And they'd been doing this for years, and so I was new to it. And the kids would practice, and they would go over to the church, and somebody or some group in the community would feed them dinner. And then Jim would bring in a speaker every week from the past. And at Midwest City, from the past, we're talking about some pretty good athletes and pretty good people that would come in and speak to the kids. And so when we went to College Station, I started doing the same thing. We just started Brotherhood. And we'd bring in a speaker every week for the kids. And that first year, I'll never forget, I got them a shirt that said the Dirty 30. And we had 28 players on our team on varsity. So we had the Dirty 30 going. We had speakers come in every week. And as it went along, it just grew and grew and grew. And I never knew the impact it was having on kids until kind of after the fact. And then my son played for us. And I asked him one time, what's kind of one of the biggest things you miss. Those kids love Thursday nights. They love Brotherhood. They love somebody coming in and speaking to them, whether it was somebody from the outside or a coach taking a subject that night and speaking to them. So moving forward, coming here, we've done the same thing. We have Brotherhood on Thursday nights. The kids get together. Somebody feeds the kids, and then we have a speaker come in. And then a lot of times what I'll do is, especially this year, is if there's something that's on my heart or on my mind that I think the kids need to know, and I really try to be just bluntly honest with them in my talks with them, is usually I'll come up with the word of the week or the lesson of the week, whatever it's going to be, and then we talk about it, and then also during that time it's a time for the captains to stand up and speak. And we let them speak at the end of the meal, and then kind of go from there. But that's kind of some of the things we've done. It's not necessarily a program. There's like Stephen Mackey. There's some great things. We've used some of his stuff. There's some great things that go on that coaches do in the state. But that's just one thing that we kind of pulled. The rest of the stuff when we talk about when I did make that statement, I can still remember that is. It's one thing winning ball games and doing things and you come out at the end of the year and you whatever it was, but I can tell, and I've told our kids this a bunch. I've been had a year that we were 10-1 and got beat in the first round, but still you won 10 ball games, and I've had a year that I was 1-10, and that 10-1 year I couldn't have told you the difference between the 1-10 year just because of the character issues we had on that team. And that's not to knock any kids. It's just the fact that, we weren't right that year character-wise, and that burned in my belly that you can be 1-10 and feel just as good as you did when you're 10-1. So that's something we try to attack with the kids is that part of taking care of what you're doing with us is just a little part of it. And we point to the school all the time. I call it the building. It's what they're doing in the building that's affecting other kids in the hallway that you want to be a person of character, man of character, whatever it is. When you're done with this, that people actually are attracted to you or drawn to you for the reasons, not because you're a football player, because you're a good human being. And I think that's something that goes overlooked a lot of times.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely right. And I think that's one of those things that people sometimes they take for granted too, is that it's not just you, it's all those other men on your staff, because they're only going to be around you a certain amount of time and get that character influence and see the way you live, the way you act, the way you whatever. They're going to be all around all your other coaches, a lot too. And so if they're not acting the same way you are, that counters what you do. So if you get that good staff around you that have the same like-minded people that believe in developing strong character and believe in that, it makes it so much easier.
There's no doubt it does, and I think the kids, there are certain kids and certain they'll fight you on some things like that, but that's something we talk to them about. We're not going to fight you on the little things. We're gonna take this. Here's our expectations. Not going to yell at you about it. Do we get upset? Yeah, but this is how we're going to do things, and you want to be with us, and we want you to be with us. But this is how we're going to conduct our business. Does it always come out great? No, we have kids get in trouble and stuff like that, but when they get in trouble, we don't cut them off. I'm probably the world's worst of giving kids 3rd, 4th, 5th, 10th chances, because I think they need to be here. I think they need to be with with other men that have like-mindedness and trying to steer them in the right direction, because like I said, there's so many things kids can do today that get their hands on whatever in social media and go the wrong direction, that there's still something to be said about the influence. And it's scary sometimes, but it's the influence that these coaches have on their athletes.
I remember Coach Caffey at Scurry Rosser down there had said when I interviewed him last year, one of the hardest things, and he said he wished people understood, was how coaches have to deal with kids when you do get to that point where you have to cut them off. Mm-hmm. If they've got, he said that's the hardest thing. You never want to cut a kid off. You never want to get to that point. And he said it's so difficult when you do have to. He said, I wish parents understood how hard that is for us, That was, that relationship tie that you have with those kids and stuff like that, it is that strong that it makes it hard to, you don't ever want to have to cut it off.
Oh, it's gut-wrenching. It's gut-wrenching. You see a kid go through your program and do things, majority do things right and do it for a time period. But, there comes a time when you get to the point of no return and you can't, there's nothing, you've exhausted all. I always say you're not exhausted everything, but there are times you have exhausted everything you can do, and you have to go to a parent and say, look, I've done. But when a parent agrees with you, you have done what you've given them more chances than you probably should have. Then I give them one more. Just try to keep them in the program as long as they don't affect other kids, But I want kids to be, like I said, I want them to be here, but I want them to do right and be involved with something that maybe sometimes may be a little bit bigger than themselves.
Gotcha. That's good. All right. Okay, so kind of jumping topics here, and with the vouchers and stuff that the schools have now, and I don't know how it affects this area. I don't remember if this area has a lot of private schools or not. But what do you think of the voucher stuff, allowing kids to move schools, and does this affect your district at all?
When you asked me that question, and I looked at it on here, that's as if you're throwing me a Phil Negro knuckleball. I am absolutely so uneducated in this, so evidently it's not affecting us.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
I mean, absolutely. There are private schools around, a little bit around here, but the reality of it is, the homeschool thing affects us a little more than anything, but not the voucher.
Okay, now how do y'all handle the homeschool stuff here?
We opened up this year to allowing homeschool students in. Until this point, Decatur never had, and we opted out, I think it's called this year. However, you opt out to allow it, and so it's not been right now. Here we are sitting here, October 21st. So we're a ways into the semester, and we have one kid that's been approved through the UIL, and I've got another kid that's was going to have a hearing, but we're not going to have a hearing now. It's not been anything like an influx at all. I've got a couple kids here and there that are trying to get it, but yeah, it's not been much. Not as much as some other schools.
What did y'all do on that, Heath, at Madisonville?
Well, at that time we didn't allow any.
When did that start?
That was.
Well, for us, they changed the rule this year, and it's either opt in or opt out. But I think you opt out now to allow them in. It's just strange wording, but you have to make a decision before. It's like September 1.
So that just became a deal
last year. But
I mean, it was being debated that whole time. That was what they were fighting about. I say fighting, but that was the discussion for a few years, and then I guess they finally did something.
It's been going on for a while. It's just that we did not allow it, so I wasn't even involved with it. It was just it was a no-go here, but now we're allowing it. But it's not like we opened up the doors to homeschool students, and for whatever reason they're being homeschooled, it's not like we all of a sudden have 20 athletes come in. It's not like that at all.
See, that's the way I felt about the voucher stuff. Is I kept telling my wife, said I don't see the vouchers having any impact hardly whatsoever on almost anybody, because I think a large part of the reason people send their kids to public schools is the athletic programs.
I do too.
I mean, it's for the most part, I think your public school athletic programs are just, and not dogging private school athletic programs at all, but I just think people want that more intensity. They want more competition. They want a more competitive type program that you tend to get at public schools. So I never felt like the vouchers were going to affect us anyway.
Yeah, I've not seen or heard anything that would be contrary to what you just said. It's just it seems like we're just going on, but it's affected a few, and I guess as we go on, it's going to affect more, and there'll be more out. But again, it's however it's going to swing, it's going to swing.
Yeah.
So,
And they probably argued more about the money aspect of the vouchers than some other aspects. You know, it was always a matter of is just going to pull money from the public schools. They would otherwise go to public schools, now be going someplace else. So I think a lot of
But
times,
if the kid doesn't go to the public school, the money wasn't going to that one anyway, right? I mean, because the money follows the kid. So if the kid wasn't enrolled at that public school, you didn't get the funds for that particular student.
well, I'm not an expert on it, so I don't want to get in and say what was what, but the whole thing was I don't think it always followed the kid. I think that's why they want the vouchers. They want that money to follow the kid.
When it was more money,
But
the
like
voucher
I said,
was,
I'm not an expert, so I'm not going to.
I did see that the voucher was more money than what they give the public school for a student, quite a bit, which that I totally didn't agree with. But I looked at the other and I just said, I still just don't think it's going to affect us, because I think people are still going to want to send their kids to the public schools for athletic programs, if nothing else, you know.
And I think, and there's a lot of extracurricular programs that, public schools have that everybody has, but take for instance our band here at Decatur ISD. They're awesome, and it's a big program. I look at our band and the amount of kids it involves, and we have had some homeschool kids that are coming here to do things like that. That aren't. And maybe like choir or our theater program.
I didn't even think about them coming for the other stuff like that.
Our theater, they do great. Our theater program is huge here. And so there's going to be, right now for us, there's probably more of that than there are athletes being affected with it.
Okay. I didn't even think about that part. I was just thinking about just the athletics, because I think Kerrville has one or two that come over for football that are homeschooled, and I think one of them was a stud last year. But anyway, I didn't even think about all the other stuff besides athletics they'd be coming over for. Okay. Well, that's good. I like to hear that. It's really not affecting us. We move on. We're not.
I'm going to have to plead a lot of ignorance on it, though. I'll say that for sure.
Well, but like you said, if it was a problem or was a big issue, then you would know a lot more about it, because you'd have to be checking on it. So, but I haven't talked to one coach that's affected. So, of all the coaches I talked to, I haven't talked to one yet that says, the vouchers are affecting us.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good thing. Okay, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsor, and that is Coach Randy Jackson.
If you're training your athletes for strength, speed, and technique, you're just keeping up with everyone else. The real edge today is in mental performance. My name is Randy Jackson, and with 33 years of experience, I understand the messaging athletes need, both in season and off season. This is why I created the Blueprint, a plug-and-play system where I serve as your team's virtual mental performance coach. Unlike traditional character programs, the Blueprint delivers mental training that empowers your athletes to think sharper and perform better. Every Division I and pro team trains the mental game. Let me be that coach for your team and give your athletes the competitive edge they need. Join the Blueprint family and help us develop the next generation of mentally tough athletes. Learn more about the Blueprint on CoachRandyJackson.com or call or text me at 214-471-0070.
Okay, so looking back at public school stuff here, if there was one thing about the way public schools are run or things that we do here that you could change that would make it better, what would it be?
Well, I think, I have, being in the public school system, went to a public school, I've been in public education for a long, 30 whatever years. Changing things. For me, it's more like right now is finding a way to retain teachers. Retention is such a problem right now. We're losing so many good young teachers, good young coaches out of our profession within the first 5 years. 5 years right now is like, that's the mark. When you hit the 5 years, it's kind of like, I guess that's a decision time. And people are, we're just losing so many. So finding, for me, change, I don't know what it is, and I think they're working really, really hard on it. Finding ways to educate and get younger teachers, coaches, feet on the ground and running without running them out of the business. Because right now, that's happening at an alarming rate. As proud as we are in Texas of our sports programs and our coaches, you look every year, everybody's looking for coaches.
Yeah.
It used to not be like that. I mean, there were many more coaches than there were jobs. Now there's many more jobs than there are coaches. So, we're losing good young people. Male, female makes no difference. I lost 3 coaches last year out of our system, 3 head coaches out of our system to the private sector, going to work somewhere, and they come back, well, I've got an opportunity to make this amount of money. Anybody that's a coach, if you put the hours you put into another job that you put into coaching, you can make a lot of money. It's just coaching is more of a calling than it is money. Right. But it's pretty hard when people are coming in and offer whatever it might be to go do this, and but not just that. Some people are getting into just other areas. I've had a pilot. Coach got into being a pilot. One's a fireman, going to the oil field. There's just so many different things that people have that for whatever reason, education's not sticking right now. And there's people point a lot of fingers at public education. I'm definitely not going to do that because I am a public education person. But finding, I guess, change for me is more like finding a way. And they are. We're working. I know they're working at state level to find ways to retain teachers because it is a problem. And there's anybody that says it's not, maybe at a bigger school and can't see it. But when you're out like we are here, we have 1,160 students here. Our turnover is not terrible here at all. And you see, like we went to a 4-day school week this year. There's reasons for that stuff. You come out and you can retain and keep people in their jobs, and so there's a lot of things that are going on like that. That it's like everything else. Everything's changing. The youth changes each year, and they change into whatever it might be, and how that goes. And then there's the old dinosaurs like ourselves. Well, that's 5 days a week, and we're going to do this. This is the best way to do it, and you're going to get paid this, and that's just the way it is. So you find ways to entice and keep teachers in it. And so the more we can do there. So to answer your question, I think the change is how it's going on right now is keeping these people that are coming out. Because there definitely aren't as many coming out now as there used to be.
No, that's true.
No, that's a major focus. That was a major focus for us there in Madisonville was retaining teachers and recruiting teachers. So, and like you said, we went to a lot of trouble to, we'd host the student teachers. A lot of people wouldn't host student teachers. Mm-hmm. Well, we would do everything we could to get student teachers programs from all those colleges on our campus, so that way we could select and try to get a head start on recruiting and keeping. A lot of times, we were able to do that. And just the campus environment, the better campus environment, your teachers like it, they feel comfortable, there's discipline. I mean, absolutely. You're exactly right. That was a major nowadays, keeping and retaining and recruiting. And getting the best teachers in there, because you're going to be your teachers and your coaches and all that. That's where your success comes from. Without a good staff and good teachers, you're just not going to be successful.
No, I think you look at one thing we had in College Station with A&M right there. A lot of college students that wanted to coach. Well, you can't, but we could use them at our middle schools.
Right.
So even middle schools, and then we'd have them coach 7-on-7 for us in the summertime if they weren't associated with the school. I can't tell you the number of young men and some young women that we picked up through coaching 7-on-7, coaching summer league basketball and got them into education programs. And you look now, how many people are alternative ed that are coming into the business. I went to a teacher's college, so 100 years ago, and they taught you how to deal with education and parents and what you're being faced with. Those things are very hard to teach people right now. So you come out, hey, I'm going to coach, I'm going to teach, and the rest of it you're not prepared for. And it is very, it can be very overwhelming for people to come into the business right now. So again, the more they can get in and get to be around kids and do things, and obviously we can't use those people in our high school levels, but using it at the middle school levels and finding ways to get people involved. And I always tell them, those younger ones, I'll tell them, coach a little 7-on-7, coach some summer league basketball. If you have the fever, you'll know it. And if you have the fever, then it's time you go get alternative ed, and you've got a way to really have a good living here. But again, the alternative ed's been good for education because they're not there. I mean, the people aren't there. You look at the number of people who are alternative ed right now on any staff, and it's a bunch.
You're exactly right. No, a lot of ours were even. Mm-hmm. You're right.
Yeah, that's what my wife did. That's what she did, the alternative certification, and so did Josh. My son, that is his second year coaching at Salado, he did the alternative certification while he was a GA for Coach Burleson over at Hardin Simmons, and he worked on that alternative cert so he could go do it too. And I still think, though, that a big part of that, of getting the teachers to getting that retention, is exactly what you said earlier. You've got to enjoy coming to work every day.
That's one thing about coaches. I think also, most coaches, when you hired a staff, or you have a staff that's, worth its weight in whatever, they are the ones that are the most adaptable to what you just said. They are able to take on different classes, do things differently, because that's what coaches do every day, is adapt to whatever the situation is. And I think that's why principals and coaches most of the time get along so well, is because they know the coaches are team players. They know they're soldiers. They'll go do what they're asked to do. And they'll go get it done. And if they don't get it done, they'll go down trying. There's no doubt about that.
But I think too, the best principals, administrators, all of that I've ever worked under, all either were coaches before or had a great understanding of the value of athletics. Mm-hmm. And when they do, there's no resentment or anything else. Like where you work, Teeth, it was like, you had been a coach and athletic director, your assistant soup above you had been a coach and all that, and your superintendent had been a coach and all that. It's like, okay, there's an understanding there all the way down of how things work well and what works best, like you were saying a minute ago, and that makes it so much easier when you have that understanding.
It sure does.
All right, sorry, I went off on a tangent there. I went off on my rant on some of that. Okay, let me get back to this. Back to the coach that matters here. Okay, so what's the most important life lesson you hope your kids learn after coming out of your program?
I think it's probably overall is accountability. You have to show up every day, do what you're asked to do it with great effort, do it with a great attitude, and come away from that. If you're a good football player, great. If you go on play some football somewhere, great. But setting yourself up for some future success, because there are a couple sports that are very, very tough. Wrestling is a tough sport. Football is a tough sport. Tough in the fact that you're going to get knocked around every day. You're going to get knocked down every day. You're going to be bruised. You're going to be beat up, and you're still going to be asked to get up on your feet every day, get in there and go to work, which is no different than when you leave out of here, whether you go to the military, whether you go straight into the workforce, whether you go to a college somewhere, is having the ability to leave this program here or wherever it may be, with some accountability factors that I'm responsible for this. And because there's so many times that, and I'm a parent too, we want to make everything right for our children. And, at times you got to step back. And that's where the coaches come in, and we put the guardrails on and lead them through some very tough times and have very tough conversations with them, very honest conversations with them. let's face it, it's not fair. I mean, there's a lot of things that aren't fair. Yeah. Sometimes sports aren't fair, and getting ready and prepared to play sports aren't fair. And I mean, that's part of what we do is preparing for that beyond here. And so, hopefully that's probably one of the things I think most. I want these kids to be accountable. They've got things they got to take care of every day, and they're responsible for them. So, that's our kind of our word, I guess I'd say.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Okay, so if you could go back and give advice to yourself as a first-year coach, what would that advice be?
First-year coach, relax. First-year coach, different for me was I was a GA, and then my first high school coaching job was a head coaching job. And so I was zero prepared for that. And all I knew to do was to work, just work. I just thought, just work hard and things will work out. That was a 1-9, 2-8, 3-7 ordeal. So, lot of phone calls on the phone, dialing numbers. I mean, I took over a program at school where there were some situations, and but as a first year coach, I think what it is, it's take a deep breath. Take a deep breath, because this is not a sprint. When you get into this, it's not a sprint. This is a marathon, and I enjoy the grind, and I think I enjoyed it because I understood I was in a program that was going to take tons of work to get turned around. So we couldn't even look at wins and losses early. We had to look at our wins and losses were going to a powerlifting meet and finally getting a medal. The first time I came home was an envelope with nothing in it. The next year you got like a couple in it. So it was the small battles that we had to look at, and I think sometimes we overlook that because we're so concerned about getting in there and winning big and doing this and moving to our next job and all that stuff that you can really get lost in that part of it, because some of the most fun of this job is seeing kids change and seeing them morph into something that they weren't and be proud. And when they're out of school, they call you or send you a text and, hey, coach, you were right. I wish I'd listened to you in high school, whatever it might be. Same things I say to my parents. But some of that stuff like that, I think is just really, really for a first year person. Pump the brakes and enjoy what you're going through, because this is a long haul profession.
How much I'm just curious, because I see my son coaching in high school now. And it's like he came out of his GA job over at Burleson, with Coach Burleson at Hardin-Simmons with way more knowledge of the game than I did coming in, my first year. Did the GA stuff, do you feel like that GA and at your different colleges, it really advanced your knowledge of the game coming into coaching?
Not really. I think
that wasn't what I was expecting to hear.
I think what it did was it taught me how to work. It taught me the work habits because we did everything. I mean, Now my first GA job, I was the wide receivers coach, so I shouldn't say it didn't teach me anything. I worked for a guy that taught me a ton, but he also taught me a ton about dealing with kids and dealing with people. That's some of the stuff that I think is overlooked. Is there's people with great knowledge that have no way to communicate with kids because, and I'm not saying I do. I'm just saying that kids, for lack of better words, don't like them and won't do things for them, or there's a barrier up between that. So I think I learned more of that stuff and having to come in through the back door to do things. And then I went to a bigger school as a GA. I was at 3 schools as a GA, and the last school of GA I was far from coaching. I was go wash my car, go vacuum. We have recruits coming in this week, set this up, set the clinic up, do that kind of. We worked all the time, and we worked hard, and we were constantly going and doing things. So I think my mindset was, that's what it is. That's what coaching is to work hard. And I think that helped me a ton. And I think then some football knowledge, and I'm still still this day before you came in this morning, I mean, I'm watching a video this morning, watching some stuff on some sweep stuff, just like trying always to learn. I still really, really like learning stuff. So I think that can all be taken care of, because when it all comes down to it, you're only going to do so much anyway. Offensive, we're only going to do so much. We try to get really good at not a lot. And so that can be taught, learned, whatever. But I think the hardest part is learning how to deal with parents, deal with administration, deal with kids, and try to put the whole thing together to get it going the same direction, because there's so many, facets pulling on away from us that's kind of hard to get about on the same tracks.
Okay. Yeah, I tell you, and that I remember a piece of advice Heath gave me when I went and worked for him over in the inner city, and it was one of the best pieces of advice I've ever given, because it was all about what you said. One of the things you're not taught in a class, but it was on dealing with kids, and it was. And he told me, he said, bad kids will be good if you make them, and good kids will be bad if you let them. And I was sitting there listening to that going, because I think I was whining or griping about some kids being turds. Oh, they're turds. They're not going to get. And he's like, look, he said, kids are kids. Bad kids will be good if you make them, and good kids will be bad if you let them. He said, it's your job to make them act right. And I was like, holy smoke, it kind of just changes your perspective on fire drill. Okay, let's hear a quick word from Coach Index. If you're a private instructor of any kind looking to build your clientele, go to coachindex.net and register for free to get your name out there for students and athletes to find you to get help. Whether you're a private golf instructor, math tutor, or piano teacher, Coach Index is the place for you to put your name out there. What we've done is we've made a database for private instructors of all kind to just register for free, and then parents can go and find the instructors that are in their area. But we really need to get the database built up, so help us spread the word to private coaches and instructors so they can get signed up. A couple of names to throw out there. If you're looking for help in shot and discus, Cason Brown down in San Marcos area does shot and discus private lessons, and Josh Brown does private lessons up in the Salado Belton area. So you can find them on Coach Index, or you can contact me directly until we get the database built up, and I can get you in touch with them. You can give me a call at 940-229-4438, and I'll help you get in touch with any of them. Now back to the show. All right. Okay, we are back from the fire drill, and I think we're kind of finishing up with that question anyway, weren't we?
Yeah,
I think on the advice to your first-year self. So, okay, so what do you do for fun or hobbies if you have much time? What do you like to go do?
I really I don't have a lot of. I used to golf, and that's not a hobby. That is pure treachery. My son golfs, and so I'd need to pick golf back up so I can golf with him, because he's pretty good, and I'm just not. Weirdly, I like to mow. I like to mow. There's something about lines in a yard and edging things up and weed eating that like humors me and brings out good feelings.
Some people do like that.
Yeah. I know this: if I lived somewhere close enough that I didn't have to drive or I could just walk to, I would fish quite a bit. But besides that, I really don't. I like I've had kids growing up. I watch them play sports and do other things. That's really about it. That's not a lot.
Now, you have two kids, right? Your son that's in college right now, and a daughter that's...
She's a senior here at Decatur.
Okay, cool. Does she do sports and stuff?
She plays volleyball.
All right.
Yeah.
So she's part of that big rivalry with Springtown we were talking about now.
She is. right in the thick of it.
All right. All right. Tell me about your most memorable moment or a couple moments in coaching.
Yeah, there's been a few that, to say most memorable would be tough. I think obviously, 2017 win the state championship. That's just such a great memory. Those kids, beating Aledo. What a great game it was. And then, 2022, the season of 21, I suppose. We played Katy Paytow for the state title. My son was a senior, it was a highlight getting there. Obviously, the way we lost that game was very, very gut-wrenching. Still is today. I'm glad I brought it up again today to myself to make my stomach tighten up. But very memorable in that, in that aspect of things. But there have been there's other times to go through that, with kids, seeing kids, do things and how they come out. I said just so many memories. And then, I would think, but when you win the state championship, you work so hard to get to that point that you just absolutely, the year we won it, we come up short the year before, and you hope you get a chance to get back there, and then you win it, and we go from Division II to Division I, and you're like, gosh, I hope we get a chance to come back there because it's such a great experience for the kids and the coaches, to be to play in Jerry's world and do all that stuff is just absolutely awesome. Again, you don't realize the journey while it's going on. You try to enjoy it, but it's so stressful. I think the after 2017 season when we won it, I think I was sick for a week afterwards. You're just so worn down, and you don't realize it. But I'm not complaining. I'll do that every year. I do that every year to do that again. But there's been some really really memorable times. That when we first got here, we went back to back the state semifinals our first 2 years here. The support of this town and the way things were and the parades and stuff, just absolutely awesome. We play over at Denton at one of their stadiums over there, and one of the guys told me it's the biggest crowd they'd ever seen in that stadium on the home side, and that's saying a lot. When you talk about some teams that have gone through over there, and I've got a picture of it, and it's a pretty neat picture. I mean, our community here is so they just they show up. I don't care where you're at, they show up, and I don't care what the sport is, they show up and they support our school. So that part of it's very memorable for me. Also, just thinking back to it's not even those 2 years; it's every year. But again, there's been some good times. But you know how that goes with all those good times. There's some pretty tough ones too. So
yeah,
but that's good.
Well, good. Okay, now have you had any really strange or unusual situations you've encountered as a coach?
I can think of one right off the bat, and it's strange in the fact that it was not good, but it's something you never forget, and I'll never will forget. And I'll never forget my kids going through it, and we had to take care of them through it. When I was at Tecumseh, Oklahoma, Tecumseh High School, we played out in Elk City. It was a district game, and it may have been even toward the very end of the season, last end of the season. I'll never forget. We called timeout. I'm walking out on the field. I have my headsets on. One of the coaches said, "Hey, coach, an official just fell down behind you." So when the officials fell down, and I'm out walking to the kids, turn and look out, and we had official had a heart attack and died on the spot on our sideline, and right in front of some of our kids. And so obviously it's about halftime. Game's over. We go through that, and then we loaded up the kids in a bus the next week. And took them to the guy was from Norman, took them to Norman and let them go to the funeral. They needed some closure on what had happened, so we tried to support the family of the official. And but that's one of the things that you're like odd things that happen. Officials get hurt and kids get injured and stuff like that. But that was one of the ones that stuck with me for years, because that's been years ago that happened, and I can still remember the kid's name. Who the official, when he fell right at the kid's feet, and he was just, he was terrified. The kid was. So, kind of one of those situations you go through, a kid goes through. It's very, very tough on them. So, and tough on everybody.
Yeah.
But that was one of the stranger things I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, that definitely. Okay. All right. So that's the end of the regular questions. Now we'll go to the rapid fire ones.
Okay.
All right. Favorite pass route?
A lot of people call it China. Maybe we call it scat. Bubble by 3, high cut by 2, and a search route by 1 on 3-man side. So probably my favorite route.
Okay. Now I'm going to have to go later visually draw that up. See what that is. Okay, favorite run play?
Power.
All right, I know what that one is. That's great. Now, do you run it the traditional way, block down, kick with the fullback, and wrap with the guard and all that? Okay. Some of them have a little different ways of running it now, and so I like that one though. All right, do you have a hair policy with your kids?
None.
Okay, heads or tails on a coin flip?
Well, they say tails never fail, so I always call heads.
Now, if you win the toss, do you like to go offense first?
Depending, I'm a big wind guy. If the wind is going to affect the game, I'm deferring because I do not want us to start off and have to, for some reason, punt in the wind and worry about that kind of stuff. But if I have my druthers, I like to defer and have the ball third quarter.
Okay. Pre-game speech, do you give one?
Most of our pregame stuff's done on Thursday night at Brotherhood, so a little bit, but not much.
Okay. Do you have a favorite quote you like to use with your kids?
Favorite quote? Well, not really. I mean, I have some favorite quotes, but not a lot. I mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have music in the weight room?
Absolutely.
Well, any particular kind?
Whatever's going to get the kids going. It's not about me. It's not about. I tell the coaches all the time, I don't care about your music. Whatever they want to listen to, as long as it's not profane, put it on and let them. That would make them think they're better. Then let's go.
Okay, varsity player in the band. Do you let them march at halftime?
Yes, and we have some right now.
Okay. Are you able to platoon your kids, or do they have to play both ways?
We two platoon almost completely.
Okay. What's the nicest facility you've ever played in? Or what's your favorite? I probably shouldn't say nicest. What's your favorite?
Well,
Jerry's World.
That's tough to beat.
Yeah.
But, I'm going to tell you right now, right over here at Eagle Mountain is an unbelievable facility. Brand new.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, we played a playoff game over there last year, and it is unbelievable.
Okay. All right. What's your favorite interview question when you interview coaches for jobs? Do you have a favorite question? Kind of draw something out of them you wouldn't otherwise know.
Well, I think there's a lot of silly questions you can ask people to, what to draw things or kind of get a little to know about them. But probably for me, I kind of like to know. I like to know, like what you asked me a while ago. Kind of like what do you do outside of football? I ask them about try to find out about their family or what they do outside of that, because there's some things I think you find out from people that are pretty entrenched, that are more stick-to-itiveness than others, and I think there's some things you can fish on there to see if their claws are dug in, if they're what they're wanting to do.
Okay, no, that's good. All right, if you could change one rule in football, what would it be?
Oh, the disconcerting signal rule that just seems to get morphed over every year and washed back under, and then it comes back up, and it's going to be an emphasis. The whole deal about defense is shifting. I have no problems with that. When you're shifting to make someone jump off sides, it's obvious. And when you jump off sides 5 times in a game, it's obvious that they're doing disconcerting signals. And when it still comes back illegal procedure, then the rule's not right. So that's the one that bothers me, disconcerting signals.
I can tell that irritation.
Yeah. We go through it everywhere.
I saw that call the other day, and I wasn't sure what they were doing. The linebacker turned around and was clapped at one of his secondary guys, and they threw a flag, and he was turned around, faced off towards the side, and clapped at him and started pointing on lining up, and they threw a flag saying he was simulating a snap, disconcerting signal.
Yep. It's I'm going to say ambiguous. As best as it can be. That's the best word. I don't know.
Okay, what would you do if you weren't a coach?
Wow. I honestly don't know. Don't know.
No reason to know, right?
Yeah. I don't have an idea what I'd even do.
Well, it's like you said, when you're called to do something, you don't sit around thinking of what else I could be doing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a pro or a college coach that you look up to or try to model some things after?
Probably one of the guys that I worked for when I was a GA. His name is Rob Bollinger. University of North Dakota. He was one of my coaches in college, and he's a guy that I wanted to go coach with, and so just his personality and the way he handled people and the way he handled kids was just so calming that I probably kind of went his direction a little bit.
Okay. Do you have a favorite pregame song?
No, I don't.
Music? You don't listen to music?
I don't personally. I listen to whatever is on wherever we're at, but I don't put stuff on for myself. No, drive me crazy.
Is there one that you like hearing in the stadium before the games that you're like, oh, that's a good pregame one?
Boy, there's some good ones out there. Anything with that AC/DC puts up over it, I'm gonna like it.
Back in Black's always one of the big ones.
Thunderstruck.
Yeah,
that's one they play a lot of times.
Yep.
Yeah,
those are good.
Those are all good. Yeah.
Okay, do you have a favorite football movie?
Got me Remember the Titans. I think that's probably it.
Okay. Favorite sports movie overall?
It'd either be Remember the Titans or the original first Bad News Bears.
Oh,
the original.
Oh yeah, I hadn't seen that one in forever.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have a favorite movie quote?
Yeah, I really like westerns. I love movies. No sci-fi. I love movies. I still watch movies a lot when I'm doing elliptical and stuff. I like to watch movies. But Tombstone, when he says a couple things, and one, he says, "You gonna strap that iron?" And then he says, "Are you going to stand there and bleed?
Oh, yeah.
You're going to do something, you're going to stand there and bleed."
When he's slapping Billy Bob around.
I'm like, that's what I'm talking about.
That is good. You're right.
That was great. That movie, and I think The Outlaw Josie Wales,
oh yeah,
had more one-liners in them, each of those two, than about any other movies out there.
Yep.
Okay, last part then. How do you feel about the NIL and the portal stuff?
What a mess. So for me, when it first started up, I was just so disgusted with it. I just did not. But then I pumped the brakes on that and said, boy, these kids have made a lot of money for a lot of people for a lot of years. And so, that part of it, you're like, okay, they deserve, they're making a lot of money for a lot of people, making a lot of people rich at that time, whether it's NCAA, whomever. So I like that part of it. What I don't like is I think in a certain sense, I think the rich have got richer and the poor have got poorer in a way. And that's not to say that there's, rich schools, poor schools. I'm not saying that because I can't even pick them out. I just know that there's a lot of money going in a lot of different directions. But what I do see that it's done even more so now, let's just say a kid comes in, and now it's like you're telling their salary. Here's what you're going to make. Come in and do this. We're going to offer you this amount of money. Okay, you go in, you take the money. Let's just say, I'm going to put a low dollar figure on. Let's say $100,000 for a kid. He's going to go there, $100,000, and he's a whatever, wide receiver. And the next year they bring a kid in for $200,000. Now the $100,000 kid is now mad at the $200,000 kid, and has nothing to do with it. And so what does he do? He leaves. And so that whole thing, we've just now. So my biggest issue with it all is not the money. It's like sometimes people are, well, they're just rich. Well, they made their money, and so they got the right to spend it. Do whatever you want to do. My whole deal with this is the lack of loyalty that is now the face of this whole thing. There's no more. I shouldn't say no more because I'm not in it, but I think to develop loyalty, to develop a program, is almost a thing of the past. You go out and you buy your players now, and that's professional sports.
Yeah.
So it's changed a ton. I still love college football. Love it.
What?
So
do you know Bob Wager? He was, I think he was at Arlington for a while, but now he's the director of high school relations at TCU.
Yes.
When I interviewed him last spring, two of the things you just said, he had mentioned. He said, one, we don't develop programs anymore. You develop a team. Mm-hmm. Year to year, you just develop a team each year. He goes, you're not really developing an overall program. And the other thing he said was, it'll be out there coming real soon. He said it'll be okay. A rush end is worth this much market value. A wide receiver is worth this much market. He goes, and it's just going to be.
Which it already is. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
that's what they're doing.
That's what he was talking about, and I was like, oh, okay, well.
Yeah, you don't. There's not bringing a kid in and redshirting him and developing for his next 2 or 3 years, whatever it might be. And when I have, when I sit down and have conversations with coaches when they come in recruiting, and I just ask them, what do y'all? And their biggest thing is we got to get home and recruit our own kids. We got to recruit our own rooms. I got to recruit my own position room. Kids that you've already brought in there, you have to go recruit them to get them to stay. And so you're like doing both. Well, who gets hurt in this the most? It's the kids that are coming out of our building as seniors every year that are getting hurt the most by this. Because if I'm at such and such university and I need a wide receiver, I'm not going to get in a high school kid. Not anymore. They're going to get in a whatever kid. And you're seeing it throughout. You're seeing Division I or Division II kids are now going to Division II, and I saw him in person last year. I saw the shameless kid from Ferris State play last year because my son's at Central Oklahoma, so I saw him play Central Oklahoma last year. And I came back here and told our coaches, said, kids at Ferris State aren't the same kids I'm seeing in a lot of places. Well, 8 of them are gone after last year, and the shameless kid is playing unbelievable ball at Ole Miss. Yeah. He was a quarterback. He won a national championship Division II last year. Yeah. So you're seeing that junior colleges now is kind of a little different. Division II is kind of now where the kids are going in and that are tweeners and can go up. And then you're seeing drop down kids and you're seeing a lot of movement. And is it good for the sport? I think we'll find out years down the road. But right now, my concern is the high school recruiting part of it, because this is the side I'm on.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, and that's because when I talked to East Texas A&M coach Clint Dozzle over there, he had told me when I visited with him in January, he said he went from 20-something high school recruits the year before to last year he signed 2. Mm-hmm. He said, that's just what it is. He said, I'm going to go get the one that's got experience that I've seen some film on in college. And, it's just – now, the only person I've talked to that said they're benefiting from it is what you said a second ago is the JUCO, because Coach Mahan at Blinn I said Mahan or Mahan. I may have said it backwards, but I said it wrong. But he, when I visited with him, he said, it's good for us. He said, because now these kids that were potential D1 recruits that aren't getting really recruited with them, we can get them to come over here and say, hey, look, we can give you a year of good film, and then you can go jump in the portal. Mm-hmm. He said it was helping them.
But as a coach, if I was a college coach who, like you said, it's a calling. And the college coaches, they've been able to do that too, because they've been able to influence kids' lives and build programs and just take it a step farther than the high school coach, or just continue it on. But now they're losing a big part of that because, as you said, they're not able to build a program. They only may give them 1 year, period.
You don't have to look any further than University of North Carolina. I think they brought in 60 players this year. I think is what the number I heard there again the other day was 60 players. So you're trying to gel, 60 new faces with whatever you had left, 30, 40, whatever it is, because the roster number is down now. But I do think and I'm not an expert on this, so I'm just saying, but I do think the shutting the portal down to one opportunity a year is huge, because a lot of kids are going through spring ball. Whatever you don't like at the end of spring ball, you just jump. Yes. And so
they did change that.
Yeah, now there's the open window. I think it's a little longer, but it's also just one time a year. And
okay, I think they needed to make some changes there. You're right. Yeah, they needed to.
I think as they go through,
they figured it out.
They'll figure. There's going to be more.
Well, that was why some of those college coaches were telling me that so many of them were doing away with their spring game, because they said, we don't want them to know who the starter is at the end of the spring, because the other ones are going to leave.
and what a shame that is. I mean, it is, and that's why, and then the Division II level, I love it. Like last year, Division II, they can play a spring game against an opponent. Doesn't count against you, so you can use it as a practice, but you can have a spring game. So it's actually kind of a neat deal. So again, it's definitely not doomsday and any of this stuff like that. But it's just it is what it is. Now we deal with it, and it falls back on us now. We have to tell the parents, hey, they don't understand yet that I don't get it. My son's not getting. I said, I know it's the landscape of recruiting now. It's just different. Be patient, and if you want to play, there's a place. If a kid wants to play, there's a place. But you just have to look a little differently now.
Yeah, no, and that was why I did that series on recruiting this past January and February. I did like a 5-part series on recruiting. Talked to the D1. The only one I missed was D2 because I couldn't get Angelo State. I couldn't get Coach over there. Couldn't get a good time to get over there and visit with him. But I talked to a couple D1s, a JUCO, D3s, and say, how do you recruit? What do parents need to know out there? Try to get them some information. And unfortunately, a lot of it was kids aren't going to be recruited from high school now like they were. It's going to be portal stuff. And so
your job will get harder because parents for years have never understood why their kid doesn't isn't getting offered a scholarship, so you're just get harder there.
But your kid doesn't start at a 3A school, ma'am, so that's why he's not getting a D1 offer. All right. Well, hey, Coach, man, I really appreciate you taking the time. That's all the questions I had. Is there anything you want to add about your program or Decatur here, or what y'all got going on here to close us out?
Yeah, I think that I said it earlier, but being in Decatur in our community, this is a community that loves their school. They love their school. They support it. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't make any difference what sport it is or what activity it is. There are people here all the time. You would think this is our school is Quick Trip. I mean, it's like there are cars here all the time. There are people here all the time, and it's an absolute, it's a joy to see that and our kids, the way they support each other, and it doesn't make a difference. Like you asked about the band question a while ago. The other night I looked up, I saw 2 kids walking back. I'm like, oh, they've been playing, they've been playing in the band. I forgot, so it's good to see that. But our kids do a lot of things, and I think that's one of the benefits at a school our size. Our kids can do a lot of things and not have to specialize. And so I appreciate that, and I appreciate our community, and our administration is second to none. So, again, I just appreciate what we have going here.
All right. Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you again, Coach, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks for joining us here in Decatur today. I hope you enjoyed our visit today with Coach Huff and getting to know him a little better and some of his views on today's topics. And hope you can join me next week, wherever that is around the state, hopefully in East Texas. I haven't been to East Texas in a while. So try to go support your local schools this week. And remember, if you're lost in Texas, just look for the lights.
I wear that red and white on a Friday night when my hometown takes the field. I say yes sir, yes ma'am, try to be the best man. That's how I feel. No matter where my heart runs, I remember where I came from. Still got that raised up